Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 10. It is the season finale. The episode is called Farewell. So, full spoilers for the episode.
To the flesh.
And indeed the season. Is that a Candyman reference you were just throwing in?
I love that title, Farewell to the Flesh.
Sure.
It's not a good movie, but it's a great title.
Oh yeah, the sequels to Candyman are not good, but it is what it is. Yeah, so season finale, and we were curious how they were going to wrap up various things. We had the threat to the Europa mission with Sun. We had how they're going to get back to their own time period. We had all these things, but we'll get to all that in a minute.
What else did it have?
I need to talk about Project Khan.
Oh, this is not what I want to talk about first.
I need to shit in this because it really annoyed. It was funny. Like I laughed out loud. I had hysterical laughter when Sun, after he's lost his whole plot and his mission, he just goes into a drawer and pulls out a folder that says Project Kai and says, "This is it. This is my next
Good
thing."
thing he had one file on paper.
This is
Since he doesn't have backups or anything.
Yeah, it's his one file. Yes, after his computer's been wiped by his daughter, he's got one file, and it says Project Cat. And this just really, like, it was funny. I laughed out loud because at this point, like, I'm just sort of laughing at how bad the show is. This is like prequel bullshit 101. Name recognition. We have to drop something people know the name of to tease something and connect it to other Star Trek stuff. It irritates me so much. And Khan especially, like, they've already like butchered like this name in Trek because of Into Darkness, right? And the whole Benedict Cumberbatch mystery bollocks. They've already sullied Khan's like legacy. So this was just like,
someone has to start the eugenics project.
This was pathetic. I hated this. Pathetic.
Look, I'll just say this. I already told you, but like, this is an Enterprise thing. Like, there's like at least three episode thing in the fourth season about Noonien Singh or Noonien Soon having Khan Noonien Singh about Noonien Soon being connected to the eugenics project.
Sure, and maybe I'll think it's equally pathetic in Enterprise when I get to it, right? That I might still hate it in that too.
The whole fourth season of Enterprise, I think because they knew like the show was done, we're just like, well, we're just going to do everything that could have been season-long arcs, and we're going to make them like 3-parters, and it's just reference after reference after reference. And people generally like that season. I do think it's probably the weakest season.
It's just, I don't like, one of the things I do not like about prequels generally is that so much of it is, hey, recognize this thing that's important later, recognize this thing, and especially when there's no story or merit to it and it's just done for a cheap pop. This is a cheap pop. This is just, here's the thing you recognize right at the end before we end this character story.
Yeah, sometimes I hate it. Sometimes I laugh and cheer and clap my hands because the fan service is never been a thing that I'm really upset about, so long as you have like a good story or it connects in a way that makes sense. This one I think only really makes sense if Adam Soon is actually going to clone himself forever after this, because they didn't really say that for sure. They just said he worked with clones, but I think that makes the most sense, so that he can continue his legacy the way he feels should be continued.
And that might be the case. It doesn't make me like it, though. And I think especially since I've not liked his story, I've not liked his villainous plot, I've not liked his daughter's plot. Everything about his side of the story, I've not liked. So them putting this in at the end just sort of reiterates to me that you're trying to, I don't know, salvage, or you're trying to give him this extra element where, oh, he connects to like other Trek lore. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, I really, now that we've watched the whole thing, I really think the only reason Soon was brought into this season is because they wanted to bring Soji back into this season, or Issa Briones, because they made an announcement that she's not coming back for season 3. Basically, the only new characters, I say new, that are coming back for season 3 are Raffi and Seven. And then the rest is just going to be the TNG cast.
It's especially a stretch to say Seven's a new character, given that she's also from Voyager.
Well, you know what I mean? Like the characters from this new series that are going to be in the next one. And then obviously Picard. So I think that's it for that new crew. The only ones that are coming back. So for season 2, they're like, how can we get Issa Briones into this show? What if she is, connected to Soon, and Soon's been around forever. So it's just kind of dumb.
What you're getting at there is that it feels like everything here is just designed as a reason to shove people in or things in, rather than because there was an idea for a story that creatively made sense and it built from that. It was in reverse. They reverse engineered some story to fit things in. And so, don't get me wrong, sometimes when you write a story and you think of ideas, it sort of works that way, and you think of like an ending first and you work your way back. But
sure,
this felt this in the story though. Everything felt just like a hodgepodge together. It didn't feel like a cohesive story. And so all that's a problem. We'll get to like how some of the cast are not coming back, all that stuff later, because there's a lot of stuff obviously towards the ending of the episode that needs to be talked about. So there's a 1-2 punch here, right, for hilarity, because this scene where the daughter takes away all the files to ruin her dad's work, and then
using virtual reality.
And then he takes out his folder, Project Can. I started laughing because of how terrible it was, and then it cuts to her, and she's like taking off her VR headset, and she's like, right, that's my deed for the day. And she's like going to start her off, and then who walks in behind her but Wesley freaking Crusher. I nearly fell off the couch.
Oh my god, I had to do like laps around my apartment when it happened. I was laughing so much. It was so embarrassing. It's such an embarrassing scene for all of Trek. And I love Wesley Crusher, and I love Will Wheaton, and there was a time when he was a terrific actor. But this was not it. Like, he's just like straight off of the set of the Ready Room, smiling. Well, that's the everything's problem. Like the greatest thing ever.
That's the problem, is that I recognized him, but I didn't see Wesley Crusher in this scene. I saw, this is just modern day Will Wheaton sauntering on his set and saying a few lines.
Yeah, and it sort of spoils something that you haven't, seen for his character yet.
This is so funny. No, I didn't talk about this. This is so funny, right? So he turns out he's ascended to a higher plane of existence, and he is, I think they call it a traveler in the scene.
It was in the first the first couple episodes of Next Gen, when you meet the traveler and he tells you like, oh, Wesley's like a prodigy or whatever.
I remember this. The alien dude, and he's like, oh, Wesley can be special, he can be like one of us, he can ascend, blah blah. And here he's like talking like, yes, I have ascended, I used to be known as Wesley Crusher, but now I'm a traveler. And he's basically trying to recruit her, which is just to explain why she won't be around. And even though they don't need to explain it, because they go back to the future anyway, so the one that should be in the future, it should still be there, because she has nothing to do with this clone from 2024. So who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. This is just blatant to get Wesley in there, because Wesley, we're gonna have Wesley next season. We got everyone else next season.
That's the thing. I thought like they kept his name off. They're like, oh, okay, because he's off with the traveler doing his ascending thing or whatever. But like, he would be part of season 3, because Gates McFadden is coming back. So like, if they had a storyline about like meeting up with Wesley again, that would be kind of cool. But instead they just threw it in here, and it just feels like, oh, I guess we're not going to get Wesley in
I still think there's a chance he'll show up for an episode, just so he can reunite with his mother and have a moment, and she can be like, oh, I've missed you these last like 30 years because you ascended to a higher plane of existence and I didn't get to see you all that time. Or however long it's been. So no, but this is the funny thing. This is a personal thing, and this is why it's funny, is that since season 2 of Next Gen, I started ending all the Next Gen reviews with Connor with "Somewhere out there, Wesley Crusher's in complete control."
If only you knew.
This is, in retrospect, me using that line is really funny. Now, it was ironic when I said it, because it came from a joke.
You didn't know, yeah.
There's an episode in season 2 of Next Gen where Picard's trying to like have like a father-son kind of bonding moment with him, and he's talking about girls, and Wesley's like, when it comes to the ladies, I'm in complete control. And me and Connor thought that line was hilarious because he's an idiot.
He was so cute then,
right? But so it became this just gag at the end of the episodes. I would say Wesley Crusher is in complete control, and it's just kind of funny that it turns out that's what he's going to become. He's going to become somewhere out there. Wesley Crusher's in complete control
of the Guardians, I guess.
The space-time, Guardian, neighborhood watch or whatever. So,
I'm not like a huge DC person like you are, so I don't really know, but it is giving me like Green Lantern vibes of like just having these people who are recruited from different planets and stuff, and they're assigned like guardian angels to very important people in the universe, which okay, it's I don't know, it's a bit of a stretch, but like, why else would a Romulan at this time, follow a human? It just seems like.
But this isn't what she was, though, is it? She's a watcher, she's a watcher, not a traveler.
She's a watcher, but the travelers are in charge of the watchers. That was the whole thing. I mean, maybe you were laughing too much and you missed Wesley Crusher's like dialogue, but that's what he was saying. Like, he's recruiting Asa Briones to be a watcher.
I didn't catch the connection to her thing. I still thought this was two separate thingamajigs.
No, that's basically what he said.
Okay. All right, well, that's kind of Green Lantern. I mean, Green Lanterns aren't assigned to specific people, though. Green Lanterns are just assigned to, like, space sectors. And
like quadrants or something,
But yes, they have Guardians of the Universe who are like their bosses. Yeah, so there is some parallels to be had there. And they get nice rings, and they get fancy green glowing sort of suits from their powers. It's a whole nice thing.
I saw the movie.
Don't judge Green Lantern on the movie, please.
I didn't hate the movie. I mean, there were things in it that I definitely thought were dumb, but like, it wasn't the worst movie. I think the movie gets a lot of hate for like whatever.
Yeah, anyone who's ever read a Green Lantern comic hates that movie. So that was like a weird 1-2 punch of the Can Project like document, and then Wesley Crusher showing up.
Yeah.
And Joe's so funny is that he's meant to be
Pretty
this like all-seeing like space and time cop, and like you said, he walks on, he's got his black jacket, he just looks like he's in his casual outfit.
Yeah, it looks like he came off of the set of the Ready Room.
Couldn't
even bother to shave.
They couldn't. I mean, I don't mind him having a beard, but just couldn't have given him like an actual wardrobe. Like this generally looks like it's just his clothes.
Yeah.
Give him like a what like a Trekkie looking shirt, just to make him look like he's not just a regular schlub. That's all I ask.
Yeah, he looks kind of dumpy in it too.
Yeah,
I don't know, like could have cleaned him up a little bit, like get him in the Marvel workout room or something, to where we get him a jazzercise so he gets a nice square jaw for a while.
Yeah, go into the room where Chris Hemsworth is like eating 50 steamed chickens a day to get his muscles bulked up.
I mean, if you were a traveler, if you ascended and you no longer needed your mortal form and you had to like appear as a human, like why not look good? And
that's the other thing about this scene. That I mean, obviously we're focusing so much on him showing up and his performance and how he looked. I also want to say that I did feel like him making this sales pitch and her just like accepting it in the space of like a minute just all felt like bullshit. It all felt so rushed, and like, I don't care where you go next, I don't care about your journey.
There is a little bit of like when she walked off, however many episodes it was, like, wait, you have like no information, like nobody knows you're a real person, like who knows how old you really are, you could only be like a few weeks old. How are you gonna get a job? How are you gonna like live? I don't know what her big plan was when she like escaped Noonan's house, but like what was she supposed to do? Maybe
she's forged everything because she's clearly good at hacking, so maybe she's forged like records.
She's good at hacking an Oculus system. Yeah
So maybe that's how she's doing all this.
Maybe Q hooked her up,
It did imply that Q did give her like a bit of a head start with some stuff. We saw some of that, so I guess that makes some sense. I mean, as for the rest of the episode, it's not as like entertainingly bad as these two scenes, but
no, I mean the rest of it, honestly, like it's fine. Like I don't mind how a lot of the stuff wrapped up. I thought that Wesley Crusher scene was just embarrassing. It was so bad and hilarious.
I wouldn't say the rest of it's fine. I would say most of it is rushed to bad to I don't know, various other words. We'll get into all of it. I thought Picard felt kind of weirdly useless in this episode. Like, they make this big dramatic moment where Irish lady's, going to go and help out the Europa mission. She's going to go see Renee Picard, and Picard like jumps into her little portal, beam at the last second, and goes with her, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're off to go take care of Noonien Singh's place." Well, Picard's went off with her, and Picard makes a speech like, "Oh, you're going to sacrifice yourself to save her, aren't you? Like, that's why I've come to try and stop you from doing that." But then, like, she just kind of says, "That's not your choice," and he just stays back when she goes to do her thing, and he just hangs around until she then comes back out and dies in his arms. Like, he doesn't do anything. It's
Do you
weird.
think this is what they meant by there has to be two Renee Picards? Like, I thought there were going to have to be some sort of divergence in like the timeline so that both timelines could exist.
That's where my mind went, because the exact phrase is that there has to be a Renee who lives and a Renee who dies. That was the exact phrasing. Yeah. And for it to turn out to be this, where she just wore the face disguise so that Sun thought he was killing Renee, but he was actually killing her, that's like really underwhelming. And just kind of like, oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Also, just kind of like, why speak in riddles when you can just say exactly what you need to do?
Yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, so this part's not really that exciting, nor is the rest of the gang. Like, the actual like conflict that was set up at the end of the last episode is, oh, he's going to try and sabotage the Europa mission. Everything about that, which is both sides of it, Picard and Thingy going to like see Renee, and the rest of the gang going to his place to like stop his drones, all of that was super underwhelming to me. It didn't feel like a finale. It didn't feel like a big thing. It didn't feel like super tense. I thought it was especially cheesy how there's like Sun's computer every so often would say something for exposition's sake, and a lot of it was really needless. And some of it felt really redundant and contradictory. For example, so these drones are launching because they're going to go and destroy the rocket ship, right? That's going to take off. And just as they're launching, Raffi's able to hack into one of them so that Rios will have control of one of them. And it's okay, so it's simple enough. He's going to like use that one drone to destroy the other three drones. Okay, simple enough. When he destroys the other three drones, when he destroys the third one, the computer says in the room, and this is a bit nitpicky, but it's one of these weird little things that bugs me. The computer says, all drones have been eliminated, and I'm like, well, none of that, because his is still working, so why would you say all drones have been eliminated? It doesn't make any sense.
It's probably a Q thing.
Sure, that's a bit of a get out of jail free card, all right.
Q did it, yeah.
So I don't know.
He's a god.
Little things like that really stick out. It's just kind of a sore thumb.
Yeah. There's a lot of details in the entirety of this show that's just been like, really, you guys didn't think about this?
I talked about how the Wesley scene, like, it felt like she just accepted this offer like super quick. Same goes actually for the Renee Picard scene where she meets Irish lady, whatever her name is in the past. Talon, I think it is. Yeah. She like explains to her. She walks in and immediately she's like, "Wait, you're not part of the flight crew. I know all the flight crew, and also you're wearing my friend's jumpsuit. What's going on? Who are you, crazy lady?" And she's like,
I like that they at least had that interaction of like, I would know. I've worked with all these people for a long time.
Oh no, yeah,
you can't just sneak in here.
That's fine. That's not the problem. Is that then she's able to convince her to trust her. She makes a little speech, and like it's like having all this effect on her because she's like, yeah, she remember me from like when you were a child. You saw me, and I tried to be invisible, but I didn't quite succeed. Either through choice, kind of because I kind of wanted you to know I existed or something. And it just all felt a bit like quick and rushed, to the point where I didn't really believe. To the point where Renee's like got tears streaming down her face as she's listening to this woman that she doesn't really know tell her all this stuff, but because she's getting a few childhood details right, it's like making her react. And I'm like, this just all feels a bit heavy and like, heavy-handed and just forced for the like. They're trying to tack on this emotion, but none of the emotions earned. So you're watching this poor actress is giving it her all. She's got tears coming down her face, and I feel nothing for it because the story is not set us up for this. It's not done this the service that it's entitled to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care much about Renee Picard. Like, even when she was first brought into the show and was hyped up to be this, the most important thing, this is where the divergence happens. I mean, it's done and over with really quickly. And so now that they've brought her in for this last episode, it's like, well, I feel like we already did her storyline, and then I forgot about her, or like I didn't think about her for the rest of it. So
that was another big problem I had with this, actually, is that the entire plot of this season feels really convoluted. Because I actually kind of like some of the stuff with Q towards the end of the episode, right? There's a few things there
me too.
I actually kind of like.
I'd say that's the highlight of the finale.
But here's the problem, though, is that the point he actually wants to make to Picard, I feel like sending him to this alternate reality where the past has been changed, and then letting Picard on his own figure a way to go back in time, and all the little adventures they've gotten into over the course of the season, it all feels insanely convoluted. And it's almost like they had an idea for a great Q episode, and they stretched it out over 10 episodes, so there's so much extra shit just packed into it, and it was like, wait, how... What was the point of most of this in your grand scheme, Q? Like, to make this point? Like, most of it feels irrelevant.
Why was he so angry in the first episode? Like, he was so mad at him. It was like, this is your penance. What did that mean?
Yeah,
it was nothing?
Well, because the ultimate thing is Q's like, I'm dying, and you're actually a friend. Because Picard says, like, why me? For the past 30 years, ever since I first met you, why has it been me? And he's like... Yeah. Because, I like you, and I don't want you to die alone like I am right now. And, I actually quite like the moment where Picard hugs him and says, you're not dying alone. Like, it was kind of sweet. It was kind of sweet that after all this time, Picard finally kind of recognizes Q as a friend in some way.
Right.
But it doesn't change the fact that several people have died because of Q and what he's done and brought them back here, including, whatever season 1 main character. So it's not, because I thought, maybe he'll just stay dead because they're getting rid of most of this cast, and it turns out he does come back when they go back to the future, but he actually isn't coming back for next season. So that's a whole mess of things.
All the murdering that happened by our Starfleet people were like, well, if the timeline gets reset, then whatever. But like, it turns out, according to Q, that this was always supposed to happen. This was always supposed to. You were always supposed to go back and murder a bunch of innocent people.
All right. You're opening a can of worms here, because I have. So there's a scene later on where Picard's talking to Guinan in the future,
yeah, I know.
right?
I hate this scene too.
He's talking to Whoopi Goldberg, Guinan, and she's like, hey, yeah, I couldn't tell you about all this, and she's got a photo of Rios, because Rios stays in the past, of course. That's how he gets out of the show with Dr. Lady and all that. Fine, whatever. But she's like reminiscing about this past, and I couldn't tell you this, I couldn't tell you that, because you had to know it. And I'm like, wait a minute. The logic from the creators of this show, when people questioned why didn't she remember Picard from 1890 something, was because they never went back, because the Confederation existed instead of the Federation, so therefore they never went back and did all that. Okay, I'll accept that to a point.
Not
However,
anymore.
Now they've fixed it. Now they've fixed the timeline, and the Federation does exist. So why does Guinan in the future... Does she remember both times he went back and met her?
She says that I guess so. She's like, oh, I always knew who you were, but I knew that I wasn't supposed to let you know, so I had to keep it all hush hush.
That is bullshit. That is...
bullshit.
We have a plot hole, and we're going to have a character wave it away by saying, I couldn't pretend. I had to pretend I didn't know.
You needed to have your lesson, Picard, because I'm working with Q this time. I don't know. Like, she didn't say that, obviously, but like, she has to be working with Q then, right? Because even though they hate each other.
I hated this conversation. It was just such bullshit. The only thing I'll say I liked about this scene is if Picard makes his little toast, some First Contact main theme motifs.
I noticed the First Contact.
And the score.
It's a good song.
Like, I did kind of pop a little bit.
Some of the fan service, I admit, like, straight to my veins.
I'm a sucker for classic themes coming back, and just in any form of like movie or TV. Like, whenever you bring a main theme back, I always pop for it.
You'll enjoy the new Doctor Strange then.
Well, here's the thing: is that I think music is where I accept like the creators telling me, hey, evoke this feeling from something before, because it doesn't have to be the exact same thing. You can sort of like almost make a comparison to something by using the same music that was used once upon a time. First, let's say as a big example in Angel, right? I know, yeah, you think I'm just making a Buffy reference, but the reason why I'm using this is there's a character very early on in season 1 who dies, and there's a very like memorable piece of music from his death that kind of sticks out. It's one of the most like played tracks from the season 1 score and all the rest of it. And obviously it was never really used again, except right towards the end of the show, there's a moment where the characters are all making a choice. Right in it's at the penultimate, it's at the ending of the second last episode, and this theme came back in for this moment, and it was to connect it to choices that character made in that episode. So it wasn't necessarily about because this character's back or we're doing anything like that. It was more just this thematically links these choices they're making now with the sacrifice that character made, and it kind of like emotionally hit a chord. So don't get me wrong, I do think like some of the times the music comes back in this show feel a little random. Like I'm not like there's nothing really in this moment that feels like it needs to like sort of revert back to first contact, but whatever.
Sure. I don't remember if it must have been Discovery or something where they bring up the name Archer, Captain Archer, and then the Enterprise music theme plays. Not the opening one, but the closing theme song. And even that was just like enough to where I'm like, yes, I want more of this. Thank you. Like, because, the music is connected to emotions, and it invokes a certain feeling and a memory, and yeah, it's always going to work.
I find music references far less intrusive unless they seem to play
music and smell, but you can't do that over screen.
Unless they play them at an inappropriate time, and then it's jarring, and then I question what were you thinking. And the example I think of is in the first cut of Justice League, the Danny Elfman score, like the Superman theme comes in, but it comes in when he's being evil, and I'm like, you chose that moment to play the classic Superman? What the hell is wrong with you? Like, what is that choice?
New Trek is usually pretty restrained on doing the dun 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 dun. But whenever it does come in, it's always because like someone has to make a big captainy decision or something. And,
sure, yeah.
And we're all real proud of them for doing it, something like that.
So yeah, so I was wondering, like, so you're watching the episode and like they're kind of hanging around the chateau after everything's went down, and Q talks to Picard. They have their scene. Rios chooses to stay back, and I'm like, okay, Q's going to bring them back to the future. And that part of me was thinking, like, are they even going to go back to the moment they left at? Because with Rios not going back, like, it's going to be weird.
How's it going to work?
Yeah, because he was captain of that ship. But they do go back there. Raffi's just happens to be there now because she wasn't there originally.
No, she was on the ship with Elnor.
I did hate how, because Q hints that with one less person going back, there's enough energy for something else, and it's like, okay, so he's bringing Elnor back. I hated how they had to like really make it like they beat you over the head in the dialogue with it, because as soon as you saw him you go, oh, that was the surprise, it's Elnor, he's back. But of course Raffi and Picard have to look at each other and go, wait, Q, he said there'd be a surprise, didn't he? What? Why? Why are you treating me like I'm
also,
5?
Why is Elnor the one that's responding? Isn't he still like a cadet or like maybe an ensign?
Yeah, technically, yeah. There's a lot of weird things when you think about how it fits. It's especially since.
Well, that's not the only thing. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously now the Borg Queen is Jeri. And so the helmet comes off where we left the Borg Queen standing there, and it's Jeri. And it turns out this whole thing is because there's this big anomaly happening in space. It's going to send out a big blast, and the only way to shield a lot of the galaxy from it is if the Borg ships and the Federation ships all combine their shields into one big shield. It's all a bit sci-fi bollocks, but whatever, just go with it. And that'll stop it from happening, so they have to work together. And she had to come to, that's why they had to call it Picard, is because Picard would recognize Jeri. They would have some trust that no one else would have with her. Yada yada yada. But it's like, well, so the Borg Queen now for all of next gen and like all of the history now has been retconned into being her?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so, because I think this is still the Borg Queen from the future who's been brought back, right? And then now brought back to the future. So all those other Borg Queen things had to have happened.
Right, okay. So basically you're saying Jeri Borg Queen was just sort of lying quietly in wait whilst all this other stuff
yeah,
was
she's
playing
doing
out.
her own little Borg thing.
Okay.
Away from the collective, I assume. I mean, that's what I think. Maybe I am wrong, or maybe all that stuff because she was the Borg queen never actually happened anymore. I think maybe they'll talk about it. I don't know. But
the key thing we're saying here is that this is really messy.
here's the thing that I'm kind of confused about too is Picard is a retired admiral. Why does he have any power to like make somebody a commissioned officer and a captain of a ship, someone who was rejected by Starfleet, and say, "Oh, I'm field commissioning Seven to captain the ship since Rios isn't here."
Even before that, he basically takes command of the entire fleet. When he's talking to Jeri.
He's retired. He left Starfleet. That was season 1. He left Starfleet because Starfleet became a disgrace. He didn't join Starfleet as another admiral at the end of it. He went on to become, to his vineyard and make wine. So, like, why does he have any power? Sure. Okay, there's that. And also, go ahead, because I actually forgot.
Okay.
I had another point, though.
So I was thinking, as it was like, okay, Rios is staying back, that's fine, that gets rid of him. Elnor's dead, but then Elnor came back. But I was sort of thinking, okay, it makes sense for Seven to stick around, maybe Raffi will too, and they'll still be there when the original cast, or the next generation cast, I should say, because the original cast makes it silly, I'm talking about the original series, but you know what I mean. Will be there next season, and part of me thought it would be going to end with like a cliffhanger of like the rest of the crew showing up. Like, are we going to see them at the end of this episode as like a tease? And it doesn't do that. It has more of a neat bow of an ending where there's a couple of really bad shots in this episode actually, where they want to do this thing where the camera would fly in like from space down to a building or down to the rocket, and it's like all CG. And the effects in the show have generally been good. Like a lot of these modern Trek shows. But these looked a bit ropey. You could feel that they were trying to like maybe save some money this season though, by like where they were shooting because a lot of the episodes didn't require a lot of effects. It was only really the first and the last episode. Maybe the second episode now that I'm thinking about it as well. But a lot of the stuff set in present day Earth was fairly by the numbers in terms of like effects.
Didn't have to build a lot of sets. Yeah.
So. Yeah. My mind was kind of thinking, maybe they're going to like, because for a second I thought, maybe even Raffi and Seven are going to stay back in the past. Maybe Q's only going to take Picard back to the future. But he does like take, he offers to take them all back. He's all nice about it, effectively. But
yes, for his penance.
But so it was just kind of like I was wondering what it was going to do, and. I think the biggest problem with the season is just how little investment I had in so many of the things that were going on, because so much of it, like, Sun's whole thing and like him trying to sabotage everything, just everything about it felt super light, and they kept trying to play these big moments as if they were super dramatic, whether it was at the end of the episode when Picard's with Irish lady finally, and it kind of hints that like maybe they will have a romantic thing, and the camera kind of swoops out and it's like the music swells up, and I'm like, there's a presumption constantly that we are like so invested in what's going on that like, but it all feels a little bit forced and heavy-handed. So that's the thing. Actually, on the Sun thing, I wanted to mention this really bugged me, is so he thinks he's killed Rene Picard because he's got like a
neurotoxin thing.
On the palm of his hand, so that when he shakes her hand or whatever, I think it touches her face in particular, but it infects her with the thing that's going to kill her, and it's like, okay, that's fine. The next time we see him, he's watching the news, and it like Rene Picard's like already on the news talking, and he's just like standing there looking pissed, like he already is found out. And I can't for the life of me understand why we don't see a little bit earlier than this when he first sees that he's been tricked. Why don't we get his reaction to that? Instead we get like, he already knows and he's drinking because he knows. So I'm like, what? Give us the moment he realizes he's been duped.
Yeah, that's weird. I actually remembered what I was going to say before about the big sci-fi thing with the shield. Is that so? In the first episode, the Borg vagina shows up in a rip in space, and it shows up and it says, "We demand to speak to Locutus of Borg," or Picard, because it turns out Jeri needed a friend, someone who would listen to her. But like, once they get there and like the Borg Queen comes aboard and starts taking over the ship so that she can have control of the fleet, so that she can stop the thing from happening, like, how long did it take for Picard to get there? Like, there's plenty of time for her to at least like put out what the situation is and like, look, I know you guys don't like us because we're Borg, but we're telling you, we're all gonna die if we don't like make a shield barrier. Here's like where it's gonna appear. Maybe you can see some signs of it already, or some changes to space or whatever. We know this is gonna happen, so at least be prepared, you know, something. Because he didn't just teleport to or transport straight to the Stargazer. So I don't know, there seemed like there was a lot of time for Jeri to, as the Borg Queen, to at least make her case as to why she's there and why she needs to talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is that because like Jeri, Borg Queen, goes onto the ship and she has to like wait for Picard effectively to go back in time, go through the adventure, and then come back. Like, which is, you know, to them a blink of the eye, but there's a specific moment where that change happens so that he'll then be receptive to, you know, who she is and all the rest of it.
But she could still like talk to them. I mean, the ships are just hanging out while she's like waiting for Picard in his taxi to get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. I just wanted to jump back to that.
I don't know.
The Soon stuff is bad. It's all bad. All the Soon stuff is bad.
It's all bad. It's all an excuse to have Brent Spiner. It's all an excuse to have a villain to deal with. Like, none of it is that engaging. Like, what's frustrating is that, because the one thing I do kind of like is like Q finally sort of being just kind of nice to Picard and wanting him to, the reason why he wants him to get over his mother's thing and, you know, her death, and then Picard sort of finally accepting Q as something as a friend. I like those ideas. The problem is that I don't feel like most of the season has actually contributed to that.
No, I mean, honestly, at the moment works because we have 7 episodes of The Next Generation to draw from.
Yes.
Not from season 2 of Picard.
No, not at all. And obviously it does make, I mean, it does mean that the mother's death stuff is more relevant than the rest of the season. It was still painful to sit through most of it. Most of it was still really bad. So
it was. And like, why is this the thing that has caused him the most trauma? Like, I think the decision for him to leave the key so that he can still find it when he was a kid and accept that it wasn't really his fault, that it was always going to happen anyway. Like, you know, he just made it happen a bit earlier or whatever. Is, you know, it's a fine bit of storytelling, I suppose. It's just, you know, Picard, like, on paper, has had so much trauma in his life. I mean, he's lived 2 lifetimes. He watched his great-grandchildren all of a sudden just disappear because they weren't actually real. He's been assimilated by the Borg. You don't get to see the Battle of Wolf 359, but he caused a lot of death of like fellow Starfleet officers during that battle. So like, there's a lot of trauma. This, I don't know. This is the thing that he needs to like get over in order to be able to have perhaps a successful relationship in his twilight years.
Also, actually, something worth pointing out is I got a comment on one of the last couple of episodes, and the Picard's mother dying like this actually is a contradiction, because you see old Mother Picard in an episode of TNG at one point.
You do. He said it in the episode where he's like, sometimes I imagine having tea with my mother. So it's meant to be like, oh, they knew about it and they knew it would be a plot hole, so they had to write something.
So they're patching up a plot hole again. Yeah. Joe, maybe if you find yourself patching up a lot of plot holes, maybe you shouldn't do the story you're doing.
Just have like an interesting story that changes this character that we love so much.
Joe, the sad part is, like, on paper, someone comes into you and says, we're going to do a season about Picard, right? You know, whether there's already a show existing or not, doesn't matter. There's going to be a 10-episode story about Picard, and the point of the story is that Q wants to help Picard, like, get over his, like, you know, not wanting to have relationships because he wants them not to die alone because Q is dying and he feels alone, so he doesn't want that for his friend because he considers
make it
Picard,
a movie.
right? That sounds like a great story. That sounds like a great character thing to finally like give this payoff to Picard and Q as a kind of a weird friendship that Picard's never accepted. But
Make it a movie.
But then you look at this whole season. You look at all the things of how they did it with all these weird scenes of him and his mother and the suicide, all these like plots running around the city, the gala, and like so much of it. It's just what was most of this?
Filler.
It was filler, yeah. And you know, another moment.
That's what, make it a movie. Make it 2 hours. Make it 2.5 hours so it really please the fans, and then that will be, and that's it. Tell your story about Q and Picard and their relationship, and accepting that like Batman and the Joker are actually friends, and then that's it. That's your movie.
It's more like Superman and Mr. Mxyzptlk, but yeah, okay.
Look, they need each other. Is the point?
Because it's exactly like Mr. Mxyzptlk, right?
Yeah, I know he's very cute. Like
he's very cute, like, and he actually cares about Superman. So
yeah, I know. I played the Lego video games.
I would actually go as far to say, like, the writers of Next Gen, like, some of them might have been Superman fans growing up, and that's why Q exists.
Yeah, well, also they've watched the original series of Star Trek. And they're like, what if we just had one godlike being who was just all of the godlike beings from that show combined?
Oh, sure, but I just mean like I legitimately think that Mxyzptlk might actually be an inspiration for Q, because there's a lot of parallels to draw. But I don't know if he predates original series though, but I don't think he has to for it to be an influence. You know, with the friendship part where he cares about him, kind of thing. Plus, Picard's way more Superman than Batman. Come on.
Look, I just had to do something real quick.
Okay.
And I think Batman and Joker have this like we need each other relationship also, according to the Lego Batman movie. Anyway.
Well, according to Joker, they have. Look, your Green Lantern reference earlier was fantastic. It was all on point. Okay, don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad.
Okay then. Well, good. You don't have to feel bad.
Yeah.
It can be fun.
Doing a good job.
See, DC Comics and the Star Trek universe, it's all basically the same. That's why there's a Green Lantern Star Trek crossover comic. That's why that exists. Anyway, we're moving on to next. I guess at this point, like, I was going to mention the Raffi and Seven like kiss moment, like that feeling like a flat dud of a like, do we care about this relationship?
Not really.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we do.
I mean, I liked it at the beginning just because I like what it meant for the characters, and especially for Seven. And you know, I went on a rant about it in one of the episodes. I'm not sure, but like it is good. Yeah, but they kept like, they don't like each other.
Yeah, it felt like they hated each other all season. So instead, because that's the thing, if you make us like care about why they like each other or why they care about each other, put a wrench into it, and they have to sort of reconcile by the end. That's like how you do the story. The problem with this is that they only alluded to the fact that they had a relationship, and then they just bickered all season. And then all of a sudden they kiss and they're happy because the story's over. But there was nothing actually in the story to give them that, like, nudge. There was nothing that actually gave them that arc. It was just, oh, now we're going to be happy because, like, the crisis is over.
Yeah, I guess so. Seven gets to be part of Starfleet, I guess, because she was field commissioned, at least for this moment. And then we'll see. I am glad because the Borg were like, we want to be part of the Federation. I'm glad Picard wasn't like, and the Federation accepts the Borg or something, you know, because like Picard, like, how much power do you have here? I was half expecting that to happen.
What was that line in season 1? Sheer effing hubris, I believe was the.
starting to make sense now.
I'm just imagining Picard going back to all the other admirals and all the other higher ups and going, "Oh, by the way, the Borg asked for membership of the Federation.
I just gave him to him. That's cool, right?
Yes, I gladly handed it over to them. That's I just imagine that woman who said that to him standing up and like, "You what? Picard, you bastard."
Yeah, pretty terrible. Boy, I'm glad this season's over. I'm very optimistic when it comes to Star Trek, and I'm always, on the side of rooting for it and being here for it. But the show definitely broke the streak, and fine. You guys wanted it. I don't like this season of Star Trek. I think it's pretty bad.
I felt good.
Ew. I take it back.
Like my heart just skipped a bit here and that. I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say something there. And you silent me. Yeah, no, Joey's so disappointed about it is that at the start of the season, I felt some potential, probably about episode 2 through to about 5-ish. Mm-hmm. I felt potential, this is a fun Voyage Home-ish story, as long as it keeps it light, whatever, it's fine. And it couldn't even just be a nice, fun, light story, because it just, even the adventure felt like it was just constantly getting messier and messier and not really feeling like an actual journey. And then all of the emotional things it tries to accomplish and feel like it's a bigger deal, and it's not just a fun light story, all of that falls flat, and in some cases it's just so messy that we're just sitting here going, how does this work and how does that work, and it's not even just the time travel stuff, because obviously that's always usually a little bit messy, but even just how the character interactions still work, and how it's so much of it feels sloppy and not befitting of what the character deserves. And Picard in this, and for a lot of the season, honestly, but especially in this final episode, Picard feels like such a passive character who's having very, very little influence on the events that are playing out. He doesn't save anyone in this episode. He doesn't give any orders that fixes anything, at least not until they come back to the ship in the future, I guess. But it's just really frustrating from a narrative sense. I guess the only thing left to sort of talk about is maybe speculate a little bit about hopes and fears for season 3, because effectively with that cast being the main cast from Next Gen, they're going to be the main characters plus Seven and Raffi. It should, in theory, kind of feel like a reunion season, and you have to imagine they're going to be in a ship that for some reason they're going to have that crew together in uniform on a ship, because if nothing else, the fan service, they're going to have to do it.
But does Will Riker hit on Seven?
He's happily married with a kid.
I know.
I'll hear about this. And then she's also in a relationship with Raffi. I suppose that doesn't really matter if she's in a relationship. If she's just been hit on.
It's the future.
But what about?
There are no rules in the future.
I don't think
Everyone's all open.
I don't think he'll hit on her. But what if what if Troy senses and just sort of gives him a look I know you're attracted to her. Just a little moment like that. Just a little slap in the wrist from the wife.
Yeah, he'd be like, Deanna, please, I'm not like that anymore. If you need me, I'll be in holodeck 4. I don't know, how is the band going to get back together, right? And are they going to be on something called an Enterprise or some other kind of ship, where they're all in their usual positions?
Does it start kind of like Galaxy Quest, where they're together just for a reunion of sorts?
Autograph signings?
Well, not an autograph signing, but I'm thinking there's a special occasion, the crew of the Enterprise D are back together again for an event.
That's how the movies kind of do it, right? Because Nemesis was a reunion with for the wedding.
Yeah, for the wedding, yeah.
And so it's always how do we get Worf back, because he's on DS9.
Yeah. I just wonder if they do something. Although I am convinced that somehow, some way, Data will be there as Data by the end of the season.
Yeah, well, his name is on the roster.
Oh yeah, but yeah, he's been here already. There was just other characters, but I am convinced that somehow, because this is the reunion season with the whole crew,
it would be so. It's got to be the wrong decision though, because that's what the end of season 1 was. Like, Data died. Like, died. Like, his memory has been. He's no longer in a computer somewhere being held storage. Like, they had this big goodbye when Picard got put into the golem, because he's an android now, and did the whole like Data wants to die thing.
I'm not saying
he can't come back as Data.
Can I make this clear? I'm not saying this is because it makes sense for the story. I'm saying that they will not be able to resist doing it. And if I was to offer a guess as to how it'll happen,
can't be Q.
No, well, he's not dead yet. I'm thinking it's Q's like dying thing. Like, it's the last thing he does is he dies. He's going to give him Data back.
But Data and Q were friends. Like, why would he do that to him? He wanted to die.
Because the love life thing doesn't work out, and he's like, you know what? Data means that Picard won't die alone.
Yeah, well, he is fully functional. What if we get another Data? Like, I think B4 was brought up in somewhere, maybe in Picard season 1, as like he was disassembled or something. Maybe Lore is the villain of the season.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think Data's going to show up.
Lore.
I don't think Data's going to show up in episode 1. I think it'll be like a towards the end of the season thing, maybe a cliffhanger in the second last episode or something. But I think like that's how you could explain it, is that Q's dying like use of power was to bring Data back.
Flashbacks, maybe just flashbacks.
No, not flashback. He'll be there. He'll be there with the crew. It'll be all of them together.
And Wesley Crusher.
And maybe Wesley. Do you know who I want? I want O'Brien. Get O'Brien back, right? If we're getting the rest of the gang back, I want O'Brien back. He's still acting. He's still in stuff. I've seen him in stuff relatively recently. You know, get him back.
I'm sure he was butthurt that he didn't get the invitation.
Get him back.
He wasn't on the email or the Facebook group.
Get Keiko back. You know, his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have the. I want the whole.
She's still acting too.
Do you know what? I can see them having some silly little cameos like that. I can see like Barclay like having a cameo. I could see
Barclay's in the movie, so yeah, probably. I heard that Barclay is kind of, or the actor who plays him is kind of I don't know. He's not a very nice person.
Like, I'm saying these things without knowing like the real life situations of the actors. I'm just throwing them out there. You know, get Ensign Rowan for a cameo. Get I mean, I hope she's not an ensign anymore. I mean, jeez, it's a long time to be an ensign. But you know what I mean. You know, I could see them throwing a lot of little cameos from Next Gen, especially. I mean, they could also put cameos in from Deep Space Nine and Voyager if they want to. There's no reason why they can't. But especially Next Gen, I suspect they're going to have some cameos. That
would be awesome. I mean, they sort of teased Cisco in the second episode of Picard. They brought his name up once. I was like, is he going to show up? Is Xavier Brooks here? And you know, obviously it wasn't. It was just a tease. But you could make Cisco the villain. Couldn't
it also be Cisco's? Because he's got a son though, right? Because it may not be. Yeah, it may not be the main Cisco.
That's true. Could be Jake Cisco.
Because they just said like
he's a writer.
Yeah, because they just said like Captain Cisco or something like that. So.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not a Starfleet guy though.
Yeah, but different timeline.
Sure, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about him showing up next. I'm just talking about when it was teased in like the alternate timeline. It could have been him.
Yeah. Bring back Jeffrey Combs.
I mean, I'm sure he's game. He'll want to do it.
Yeah, he did an episode of Lower Decks.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's kind of funny that Alison Pill, Elnor, and like, you know, like a lot of the cast are going in. It kind of makes it feel, because I feel like when people heard there's going to be a Picard show, really what they're all hoping for is like a Next Gen reunion. So it kind of puts these two seasons in a really weird place where they feel like just the tease before the real thing that everyone actually kind of wanted. And the writing quality also just makes me worry that it's probably just not going to be very good, which would be a shame. But
and it's already filmed, right? Or they filmed them back to back?
Yeah, it's already done.
Yeah, so it's probably going to suck.
It's probably going to suck. I mean, at least the fan service will be through the roof, but...
Oh, I'll be positive. Like, going in, I will. I promise.
But
And every fan service thing, I'll squeal at and clap my hands.
and that's the thing. I think some of this was even harder to take after watching the Strange New Worlds first episode, where, well, not perfect, it did a lot of things right and a lot of things well. Like we mentioned earlier, like just all the murdering going on by the Starfleet people in this episode, this season, and in Strange New Worlds episode 1, you can tell that they're making efforts to knock people out and use stun and not kill people. Like it, and yeah, it's different situations. I get it, but
yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I watched the finale first because I watched them
That's
when
fair.
they premiered. And then I went into Strange New Worlds, and it was very much like this feels better. We'll see where this goes, but it feels better.
Yeah, at least after one episode it feels better. So if you want some more positivity, you can check out our Strange New Worlds premiere review. But yeah, I guess that's the Picard finale. I'm sure there's some details I've missed, but I think
overall very frustrating and very disappointing season of Star Trek, and just kind of a complete waste of time, honestly.
That's a damning sentence.
It really, I mean, it brought it on itself.
Yeah, it's a damning sentence, but it's kind of true. And I want to make something clear, is even though I don't think Discovery's very good and has a lot of problems, and I think Picard's been kind of a train wreck, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing serialized Star Trek. The idea is not the problem, it's the execution and the writing quality that is the problem. It is not that Star Trek can't be good serialized stuff, because it absolutely can be. There's no reason why
I really
it can't
like
be.
Discovery, yeah.
So I made that clear. Because when we talked about Strange New Worlds, we kind of like praised it because it felt refreshing to just be like a story of one episode kind of thing.
Honestly, like maybe this is the thing that the writers can handle. Is if they just have like short concentration. Let's just make sure we get the details of all of this one episode right, or something, instead of like thinking overall the whole season or something. Just just one episode at a time, baby steps. That's what they need.
So much of it's so annoying though, because it's like, okay, you want to do a Voyage Home style story, that sounds like fun, but it's like all you had to do was resist the urge to put in Guinan. But they couldn't. They was like, no, we're going to do it anyway, and just sort of have some bullshit explanation for why it doesn't contradict things, and it just makes everything messy. If all they had to do was decide to not do that, restraint. That's all it would have taken to fix at least that part of it. And then and there's so many examples of that throughout the season where if you just had some restraint and didn't do this, if you just had some restraint here and focused on this, it's full of things that you can just kind of nitpick at and correct.
You can just have Guinan recast and just have her act like Guinan and like have her, where she's happy to see Picard again.
Oh yeah, have her recognize him. Yeah, that's the other option for sure. Yeah. But yeah, there you go. That is the Picard season 2 finale. Can't wait for season 3 and the train wreck that could be. But
I am excited for season 3, and I hope it is the search for Will Wheaton, the search for Wesley Crusher. That'll be the third. The third season.
Well, let us know what you thought of the season and the finale. So just to confirm here, Tara, this season of Picard, unequivocally, given what you've said, can be a 10.
Well, I plead the 5th.
Yes, 5 out of 10. That's still a bit generous for my taste, but I can respect that.
I guess you don't watch a lot of courtroom drama, do you?
No, I know what that means. I was just cracking a joke.
Well, you look foolish, so I hope you're happy.
I did not look foolish. How dare you? I look charming and funny and witty. Thank you very much. You can let us know what you thought of the Picard finale and season 2 as a whole in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff helps us out a lot. And of course, you can support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and help keep all the content coming over there. And yeah, we are reviewing Strange New Worlds. The first review already went up. That'll be going weekly for its duration. So join us for that. Join us for our working through Babylon 5. Join us for our movie podcast, The Atomic Cinema Experiment, where we talk about science fiction films over Mail Fuzz Movies, or a podcast feed near you. So thank you very much for joining us once again. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And it turns out that Wesley Crusher is somewhere, sometime, in complete control